to the 4 Pillars of Entrepreneurship Virtual Summit. My name is Annie Hardock. I'm the founder of the United Networks for Growth. It's a holistic approach to entrepreneurship in the areas of health, wealth, personal growth, and business development. And I'm happy today to introduce you to Colleen Davis. Colleen Davis is an internationally known creative brand strategist. She founded Intentional Branding in 1998 after working in corporate as a designer and art director. For over 2 decades, Colleen has guided conscious entrepreneurs and emerging industry leaders to create a market-leading, spot-on brand presence. Her proprietary archetype-based process and award-winning creativity help you increase your impact and authority by creating a brand that really connects with your ideal clients. Welcome, Colleen.
Thank you.
Yes, so happy to have you here on the summit because our audiences are entrepreneurs, and I think branding strategy is one of the very important part in their business. And tell us about what do entrepreneurs need to know about branding?
Okay. Well, the first thing that they need to know about branding, and everyone needs to know about branding, is that a brand is more than a logo. So branding includes your logo, but it also includes all of the other pieces. So branding is how people see you and how they hear you, how they sense you, how they smell you. I mean, it can go into all kinds of things. So, branding is really your message. For most entrepreneurs, it's your message and how you show up visually. So it's a combination of those things.
Mm-hmm. And well, what should what should entrepreneurs be investing in their brand? Like, when is it? At what point of their business, right? Because should they do it right away when they start, or until their business go to a certain level before they do it? And I heard about rebranding. That's another question. But tell us, at what point is the best?
So it really depends on your situation, what kind of business you have, what kind of budgets you've had set aside, how clear you are. For instance, if you've come out of corporate and you really know what you're doing, you know exactly who your clients are, what you provide to them, certainly it makes sense to start branding right away. If you are, on the other hand, kind of like, well, I want my own business and I'm not exactly sure what I want to do. Most of my clients are coaches. So, a lot of them are really trying to figure out what their magic is. I call the transformation that they provide, I call that their magic. So a lot of them they don't have proven concept yet. So, in that case, it might make sense to just get out there and not worry so much about having a logo or having a website. Really do the nose to nose, kind of contact, test your message, have some test clients to have results, that kind of thing. So, it really, it really depends on, the situation. I would say most of my clients are rebranding. So they have sort of this makeshift brand that they created, or they went on to Fiverr and had a logo done or something like that to start with. And then they want to take their business to the next level. That's when you really should start investing, when you want to get past that 6-figure mark.
Right. Yes. I guess at the beginning, it's like only if the entrepreneur really know their target market and everything, like really clear on their message before go and do all these.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say part of what I help them with is to get clear. But if they're kind of all over the place and they're just experimenting and they're like, they really don't have, and they're not making any money yet, and they don't have, a good budget set aside for branding, then I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, you don't want to go into total debt, to do something when you're not really clear to begin with. Do I recommend investing, sometimes beyond, and you do some coaching so you understand that people really need to invest in order to get something back out of it. And what I do makes people money. So I have a client who was making $6,000 a year when she hired me for more than that. And now she has a six-figure business consistently. So, I mean, it can make a difference, but I think you need to have some sort of proof of concept.
Yes, because I know lots of entrepreneur, or someone just starting out, not even sure what they're getting into because it's so cheap to get a business card.
Right,
something.
Exactly.
And then they start getting the logo, but the logo, when they start, would you call that it's like rebranding when they are to a point that they actually know what they're trying to build?
Yeah, they know what they're trying to build, right? They have goals. They know that there's a trajectory that they're on. They have, they want to build their business to a certain point. It's not just a hobby business anymore, that kind of thing. So that's when you really should start investing, when you really want to take it seriously and to take it to the next level and to reach more people. Most of my clients are interested. Of course, money means freedom, right? But they're more interested in making an impact on people's lives. They're more interested in making change.
But maybe when they even looking into the branding process, it helped them to get their message more clearly.
Right.
It's something that I guess entrepreneurs should learn about, know about, right?
Oh,
but
they should.
To take action is you better know exactly, your plan and what your vision is. And
right. And then I help them refine it, much like, I'll help them figure out exactly. A lot of my clients will come to me and they'll say, or new clients will say, my clients are women and they're between the ages of 30 and 65. And while that may be true that you work with people between the ages of 30 and 65, when you're really trying to reach them, you have to narrow it down.
Yes.
You have to talk to, I always say, if you're talking to everyone, you're reaching no one, right? Because you really want to be able to have somebody look at your message and go, oh my God, that's me. She's talking right to me, and so that's where, people, and that they're ready. It's just that they just need to narrow it down some.
Yeah. It doesn't mean like you're excluding that demographics, but it's just the majority that you're targeting.
Right.
Who they are.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what is the difference with the service that you offer and with like someone just finding a designer, go and do a website and logo? That's lots of business that they might start it that way, especially like solo entrepreneurs. That what they started at is having a website, having a logo.
Right. So what happens a lot of times when people just hire a designer to do a logo, or they go on to, one of the cheap websites where you can get a logo done for a couple $100 or whatever, and that's fine. And I think that there's probably a lot of talented designers on there. It's the fact that they're not really working with a strategy. So part of what I do is I help them form a brand strategy. And part of that is my work with archetypes. So what I do, and I strongly believe that if you create a brand that is a persona, that really stands for something and connects with people, you're going to have a much easier time connecting with people that you want to connect with. And you're going to have a much easier sales conversation. You're going to have a much easier time asking for top dollar. You're going to have just an easier time in your business. So I start with the archetypes. But so, the biggest difference, I guess, to get back to your question is really, it's the difference between having a strategy and not. It's the difference between throwing spaghetti at the wall and not. So what I do, so what a designer does, if you go to them and they don't really have the big picture, they don't know what you want to achieve, and they haven't helped you, formulate exactly who you're talking to and what you're about, and what your magic is, and all of these different pieces, is that they're just going to say, oh, she's I don't know, an HR consultant, let's say, and that's about people, and so I'm going to do this logo, and it's going to be really pretty, and it's going to be about people. Or maybe I'll ask her what your color preferences are, right? So I do that. I ask people what their color preferences, but I also do the research, and I'm very intuitive as well. And then I also look at the archetypes. And I always say, if you want to really love your logo, that's great. And then you should hire an illustrator to create something that you can stick on your bulletin board, right? It doesn't, I want you to resonate with your logo, but the more important job of your logo and your brand as a whole is to make you money. So when you go to a designer online or something, they're really just they're shooting in the dark, and they're going to give you a whole bunch of options, or a few options that may or may not resonate with you, but it may not resonate with your clients. What I do is we get to the point of, I'm showing you what your color palette is. I'm showing you, what your style is before I even put pen to paper. So I do the visual branding as well as the strategy, which is very different in the industry. Usually you have either or. There's a lot of brand strategists out there, and there's a lot of designers out there. I merge the two. So I'm really full service. So I hire out certain pieces, like a lot of the logos I do myself. Sometimes if I see that, if I vision this illustration that's a little bit beyond what I think I might be able to accomplish in a reasonable amount of time, I'll hire an illustrator, to do that piece of my vision, and then I'll put it together.
But what is the difference then with for like marketing agencies that encompass everything, right? Like from branding to building website, like designers,
right.
They have their company of resources. How do people, like businesses, choose?
Well, I don't consider myself a marketing agency, but I'm a design and branding agency. Yeah. So I hire out the pieces that my clients need. I don't do marketing strategy per se. When you say marketing agency, I think of somebody who's doing branding and design and advertising and all of that for like Target or American Express or something like that. What I do is my clients are almost exclusively solopreneurs. I do some small businesses as well, consulting agencies, small businesses, that kind of thing. Service-based mostly is what I do. But I do it all in-house. So there really isn't a difference. The big value to that is that you don't have to tell your story 5 times. You don't have to tell your story to a logo designer and hope they get it right, and then bring your story to a website person and hope they get it right. I do hire out the production of my websites because nobody can do everything,
right.
And do it well. But does that answer your question?
Yes, I think it's like when entrepreneurs, like, what are the tips like for them to, first of all, do they really need the branding? Is that what stage they're at, right? And then another one is, if they do have the budget, how do they shop for what they need? Like, so, to connect, is a connection a big part of it between?
I think so. I think so. Yeah, that's why.
Because,
I have.
Well, to me, it's a lot. Like, depends on the connection that you have with the person that's going to do your branding.
Right.
Because if they it's not like a formula thing. They have to know you. They feel you. They feel the passion of what you do. Right? And not just a formula of for every business, like they go through these process. That's
Right.
why
Well,
I'm
and
asking you how
even
much is the connection with
it absolutely is.
your client.
And even with the, when I use the archetypes, I actually had a hesitancy in the beginning to
Mhm.
using them, even though I was in love with them personally. I had a hesitancy because I thought, my job is to take people out of a box, right?
Mhm.
And I felt like with archetypes, you're kind of putting people in a box, but it's not really like that because everybody is such a very unique mix of it, and how they express that archetype is very different. And
Mhm.
then we look at client archetypes and what their purpose is, what their drivers are, and then your business picks up a piece of that as well. It's a beautiful process.
Mhm.
And it really is spot on. It really helps. And of course, there's my um, adding my flavor to it, right? And
Mhm.
and how I create the brand for you. And I would say if I have a secret power, it's really stepping into the minds of my clients' clients. I'm able to somehow, no matter who they are, I've stepped into into the minds of men who want different products, or I mean services, to figure out how to position my clients to be attractive to those people.
Mhm.
So it's really
Yeah,
interesting. I'm not
that's
sure,
what
it
we
just
describe.
happens.
Yeah, not just like knowing your clients, but those who would purchase
Right.
from your client, what's in the mind.
Exactly, because that's the whole point of having a brand, right? And
Yeah.
having a business, is to make money.
Mhm.
Otherwise we're not in business.
Yeah.
So.
So, and another question is, what is the one branding tips that will be like make the biggest difference to the business, to entrepreneurs?
That would be consistency. Um, Consistency. Yep, absolutely. And that's not just with your colors, it's with your messaging. So make sure that you're talking the same message all the time, and or at least, you're keeping those elements of that same message all of the time to make sure you're reaching the right people. Make sure that I don't know about you, but I remember going to a networking event many years ago, and I picked up a card and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. I'm gonna go check them out online. And their card was, I think, green and black, and their website was like pink and blue. And I was like, totally different logo, totally different fonts. And it was the same company, but I was like, what is going on here? It's very, it needs to be cohesive and consistent, your messaging, because
Right.
otherwise you're not going to build the brand equity. You're not going to build your message. You're not going to build your visibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what if someone that's like some businesses, like entrepreneurs, they have multiple business. Well, don't say multiple, just say two.
Right. Right.
um, do they separate their message? Like depends on who they meet, or how do you like to represent the brand?
It depends on what it is. I mean, I have one client who I did her branding a few months ago, and she does some network marketing businesses that she
Mhm.
represents. So what we did was we branded her, and then we even got, and she happens to be in the healthcare industry. She's a healthcare coach, but she represents a couple of different network marketing brands. And what we did was we had her website with, actually, we registered different domain names for her. So it was like, her name was Colette, and it was like Colette Beauty or Colette Health. I can't remember exactly what they were. So what they would do is then they would go to like if she was out and she thought somebody could use, she repped Rodan and Fields. So she could say, if she wanted them to go to that site, she could just say, well, go to Colette Beauty or whatever it was .com, and it would go right to her page, rather than saying, now you have to go here and you have to go here and you have to go here. But her main brand was all about her. and all about how she could help you. These other things were just tools that she used. So another example would be, I have a client who's an image strategist or image consultant. And so her clients are two different people. So in effect, she sort of has two different clients or two different businesses in a way, even though it's the same business. So one thing she would do corporate training. And then on the other hand, she would get into women's closets, individually. So in that case, you can kind of have the same brand, but have two different tabs on your website, speak to two different audiences. So is that kind of answer?
I think it's separate businesses. The vertical market that you're in. So one, it might be just, I've seen some businesses, they have one that is just doing the lead generation that help another business that their core business, right?
Okay. Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, if it's totally different markets and totally different audiences and totally different businesses, I would say completely keep them separate.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And what else? Like what I heard from you is about strategy, right? Like for the branding. How long, like in terms of duration, do you think of 5 years or 10 years or much longer?
Oh, what terms do I think in?
Yeah.
I don't know that I look at 10 years. I mean, we're entrepreneurs. We're evolving every single minute of the day, right?
By the time you're branding, right? They have to
right. I mean, I look at in developing a strong brand is that it's going to evolve with them rather than having to throw it out every 3 years or every 5 years. It's really about evolving it. So what does that mean? It could mean that your logo stays the same for 10 years and your website maybe changes, gets a refresh, you get new photos done. You change your messaging a little bit as you grow. I mean, my audience has changed over the last 21 years I've been in business. My business has evolved. I've actually have had 3 different business names, same basic business, but it has evolved like I have. So what I think is most important is to have something that you just don't totally throw out, because the other thing that it affects is that you build brand equity every year, every month, or whatever you're in business. And when you completely change everything, unless it's really just not working, it's really not a good idea. Yes. It's, you want to keep some consistency. Again, we go back to consistency so that people recognize you. You might meet somebody that you met 5 years ago and you might have even a different name or whatever, but if there's something consistent in there, they're still going to recognize you.
Yeah. I've been running like a local community, like a business networking group for 22 years, right?
Okay.
So I know the time change that we have to change, the brand, like the look, right? Like you don't put, I don't know, it was in the 90s, like late 90s, 98, that's when I started, right? Those images, like, you pass time. And I actually kind of recognized that when I noticed the membership were all, at certain age group, and we weren't able to draw younger people, right? So that's when about 9 years ago, we kind of changed the brand, the look and everything. Yes. Yeah. And now I'm going for a global brand of networks that I'm trying to build. Not trying, this is the first summit that we launched, and trying to connect the entrepreneurs with experts and business centers and other business networks. Awesome. Because, from entrepreneurs' point of view, I think it's always continuously learning, and especially on any technology or branding or website, and look like all those, we need to move as the market moves. Right?
Oh
We're
yeah, and
at the same.
you also have to be have some foresight into it, because
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. In 2000, I was doing a lot of rebranding for small IT
Mhm.
companies, because all of their work was getting
Oh,
outsourced, to
yeah.
India at the time. And I was, so they were taking the time, the time that they had, all of a sudden, that they didn't really want to have, but they were rebranding and refiguring out what they wanted to do with the next, how to evolve their business. And at the time I thought, oh, no one could ever do that with design and stuff. No, absolutely not. And then in 2007, all of these online logo mills came on the scene. And I was like, how did I not see that? How did I think I was immune somehow? I don't understand. So that's one of my evolutions, is I really started looking at more big picture, because I had been in business for a long time at that point, and so that's where I was looking at, like, oh, but I'm way more, I mean, I'm so much more than a designer. So, that's when I started bringing in the strategy pieces. I even do some content development for clients. I don't really usually market it, but some clients have asked me, and they just keep coming back because I'm good at it. But yeah, you really have to, you kind of have to be looking. I mean, you could be like a Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster Video did not see that coming. And I think there was one in Alaska for a while, but I don't know if that's even
Yeah,
around
even
anymore.
the .com era, like era, like I mean, website, and suddenly it's like social media taking over. Right?
You have to,
You have to
really
follow,
think, and you have
and
to
I
listen to
actually
what your
started
clients are saying.
before. Actually, like you saying about the messages should be consistent. Like there's so many different platforms, right?
Mhm.
What you recommend? Do you focus on, say, two or three, or what would you say for a message, like to get your brand message out there?
You have to know who your client is and what they're using.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to talk to more corporate or more business type
Yeah.
folks, you're going to go to LinkedIn. If you're looking to entrepreneur market, I think is largely on Facebook and maybe Twitter. Instagram is something that I definitely should be doing, and I will be doing, but I just haven't had the time to really implement it.
Yeah.
So, but if you have a lot of visual or components to your brand, certainly you should be on Instagram. So
Yeah, to me, I find like for business to business, it's the LinkedIn that helped me more with my business,
yeah.
because I also have like business to consumer type of business, and I noticed like Facebook is
Mm-hmm.
the type. So I guess depends on the market. So don't go on the platform just because someone else running it, using it. More it's because your
Right.
business need to that target audience that's what
Yeah,
they.
and sometimes it's testing. I mean, before you spend a whole lot of time on it, just
Mhm.
make sure, just do some testing and see if it's, if you get something back, anything back, even if it's not business, if you start getting some activity or interest in
Engagement.
your page, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
on the
Yeah.
engagement. Right.
Yeah.
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 So, well, I know you're giving our audience, the entrepreneurs, a free gift, and
Yes.
tell us about it and how we get to it. Like we will post a link, but
Yep.
tell us about it.
Awesome. I'm actually having people take, if you want to find out what your brand archetype is, I have a online quiz, and you can find out what your brand archetype is, and then I'm also offering a call so that we can go over those archetypes, because I actually right now I'm actually looking at each assessment and scoring it, and then we should talk about it just to make sure that that I'll ask a few more questions if you want. If you don't have to. You can just, I'll send you the archetype inspiration guide for your archetype.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to have
the mini archetype.
Yep.
One,
yeah.
right?
So I have these inspiration guides for each archetype, for each brand archetype. So if you come up and you're a magician, I'll send you the magician brand archetype inspiration guide. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's always nicer to talk though, so that we can, you know, make sure that we're on the right track and make sure you know how to utilize that information.
Okay. So yeah, like we'll have a link and they can first does the assessment and connect with you, right, Colleen?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much for with us on the virtual summit. Thank you.
Thank you.